Welcome to the video. Today I want to show you my live looping rig. It's very powerful and it's small and condensed. And at the heart of it is an RC600 Loopstation and a Behringer X18 digital mixer. Come check it out. So let's jump into it. My name's Ryan Marchand and I wanted to show you my live looping rig today. I'm very proud of it. I've been working in the Tampa Bay area for about 7 years as a solo live looping musician, and I've learned a lot along the way. I kind of try to push the boundaries a lot as far as bringing very powerful equipment, but then refining it and being able to put it in basically a tiny space. And I spent a lot of time doing that, and I want to show you part of how I did that today. Go ahead and like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, drop a comment. I'd be glad to answer your questions as best as I can. So let's jump into it. In this video, I'm also going to be probably splitting into two parts. The first part is going to be about my solo performing live looping rig. And the second part of this video, or perhaps a whole second video, I want to show exactly how much power all this is going to consume with using a special unit like this Jackery here. This is the Jackery Explorer 2000. I just got it. I've not used it yet, but I was looking all over YouTube to find samples of people utilizing specifically QSC speakers, since that's what I have, in certain environments at certain sound pressure levels. What I consider stage volume for a solo performer like myself, who's more than acoustic. I'm kind of like a heavy beat live looper. So I wanted to show exactly how much power each one of these devices in my live looping rig uses specifically, so that you could see that, because not everybody's going to use this much stuff, but potentially you could do your own calculations from what I'm about to show you on the second part of the video as to how much power you may need. And you may not need a Jackery unit this big to be mobile and street perform or do weddings on the beach or whatever it is that you do. So hopefully this video is helpful. Please remember to subscribe. I appreciate it. And check out my other social media channels and my videos. All right, so step one of the most important pieces of gear if you're a solo musician, live looping or not, is the hand cart. This is just a hand cart I got off of Amazon or Sweetwater. And basically, it easily and quickly unfolds to a number of different sizes like this, where you can expand it. And I'll tell you right now, all of the equipment I'm going to show you in this video, I can actually fit typically in one trip onto this hand cart. Oh yeah, and don't forget bungees to go with the hand cart. All right, second piece of gear in my live looping rig is a laptop. I like to use a gaming spec laptop. And what a gaming spec laptop typically means is it's going to have a better graphics processor and a better processor in general, and usually more memory and a high performance hard drive. So I have 2 solid state drives in here, and I've expanded the memory to include 32 gigs of RAM. So that really helps you with your audio processing, whether it's live or in a DAW, running Pro Tools, Ableton, what have you, or your VST plugins, which I'm going to show you later for the synthesizer. All right, real quickly, here's all the equipment in a flash as best as I can that I'm going to be showing in this video. First of all, the cart, and the bungees, the speakers, mixer, the pedal board, which I have under here, the bag of cables down over there, have all my cables in there. I have a tip jar. I have various accessories in the tip jar. Stools to place things on are very, very handy. This Jackery power unit, which I'm going to feature in a whole separate video, so I can be powered mobily everywhere I go. My rug that I'm on, it's good to have a consistent rug or some sort of surface to put your stuff on. Mic stand, microphones, a stage light. This is a stage light. It's always good to have some form of light, whether a venue has lights or not. Tip jar accessories, like this USB clamp-on light. Promotional materials, like business cards. Signage, like this TV screen that I like to use, which I'm gonna get into later. There's a bunch of different ways I use this TV screen. I also have a wooden sign that is not in the video because I actually lost it a couple days ago. I think I lost it when I left it on the roof of my car and I drove away from a gig because I was not used to packing up with some new elements related to this Jackery here, but that's a whole other story. Of course, the laptop I'm making this video with, you're gonna see it later on. And then accessories that go in the laptop bag, like USB cameras, extra charging wires to connect cameras or phones, breakout USB hubs for the laptop. Let's just take a quick look in here just so I know. Yes, a backup USB A and B wire, an extra foot switch. These are always handy to have when you're a looping artist and you have lots of equipment. It's good to have an extra foot switch on the fly. All right, here's a whole stack of wires. I have an HDMI cable, obviously for a screen, or sometimes it's for other purposes. I have a USB Type 3 high-speed extender. So this is like a 16-foot extender, so I can run a camera far away if the moment requires that. These are a little bit of a mess, so I have two TRS cables of about 10 feet in length. Those are handy for connecting something like the foot switch or just on the fly. It's good to have a small assortment of cables, adapters, or connectors because anything can happen and they are so handy and can save your gig, trust me. USB 3.0, Type C to Type A connector. Again, various different kinds of cables. Again, another USB Type C to Type A. This is a small snake I built for my laptop. It's basically a Cat 5 cable and a USB connector at once, so I can connect my mixer to the laptop. This is my backup. I have a whole other one, which I'll show you. Extra microphones. I have two right here. Here's two extra because sometimes something happens and either your primaries don't make it to the gig or you have guests. And even if you're not typically a person who likes to have guests, sometimes something can happen where an amazing guest shows up, like a celebrity, YouTube star, whatever it may be, and you want to make sure you can get them a spot. And if you don't have a microphone, that moment could be gone if you're not able to play and sing with them on camera. Again, another microphone. This is a condenser microphone for like acoustic instruments, percussion, drums. I use this as an overhead primarily when a drummer joins me. Sometimes drummers don't have their own microphones. It's good to have something like a different style of microphone as well. Oh yes, and you'll notice all these microphones have windscreens. If you're gonna be playing outdoors, sometimes even indoors, if you need fans or other things like that are blowing around, windscreens are a lifesaver. It's good to have a whole batch of windscreens because if you sing with your lips on them a lot, they will break down and wear out and they will choke you as you're singing outside, and it is an awful feeling to have these particulates go down the back of your throat and choke you. Let me tell you, that is an awful feeling. There's nothing like it. So have backups ready to go to replace these about every month or so. Depends, on your usage. Mileage may vary. A USB hub. Again, if you need to connect more things to your computer for whatever reason, or somebody else does, you have a hub with various connections. Spare USB camera. I have a whole host of cameras and things like that, but I like to always have at least one in my bag in case I need to film a moment and I don't have my regular cameras or a spare cell phone or something. That way I can film a special moment if the moment strikes. Of course, I carry this Arturia Minilab MK2 keyboard controller in my computer bag, and I also have a small stand for it, so I can play standing up. I typically bring 2 guitars to a gig, one for a backup, and of course I have a whole kit ready to change strings and make small repairs, adjustments to guitars that change. That is also a must. Guitar stands. All right, I think there's just 3 more things I wanted to show you, and I couldn't find them, but now I remember where I put them. I put them outside the door. All right, I also carry a QSC sub to go with the speakers and a monitor. For my monitor, I use a small AER Compact 60. Works great for acoustic musicians, singer-songwriter types, because it has great preamps for acoustic guitars and vocals, but you can also just send a signal to it and use it as a monitor. It's definitely great like that too. This kind of monitor, which is like a loudspeaker, isn't necessarily always what you need. There's one more thing. Absolutely crucial to any full live sound solo performing setup would be having an in-ear monitor system. This is just a cheap one from Amazon. This is my pedal board, a digital mixer. This is an XR18, which has become very popular throughout the years, especially for loopers because it's incredibly powerful for its size. And I run a power strip next to it, and I pre-wire these two cables right here for the mixer and the pedal board. So these just get plugged in an instant. I basically leave these two wires plugged into the power strip, and I wrap them together with this cable, and I pack it with the rest of my cable bag. That way I just plop this down. This power cable is pre-measured to fit into the mixer. This power cable is perfectly long enough to go into the pedal board. All right, and here is my pedal board. The signal flows from the tuner to a Klon imitation to a Kingsley tube drive. These are actual handcrafted tube pedals, preamp circuits by Simon Kingsley. And then I go into a modulation effect, a phaser, polyoctave generator for most of my bass effects, pretty much all my bass effects, except for the VSTs, into another Kingsley preamp, which is primarily like a master clean preamp, emulating the last stage of amplification. This one is modeled after a Dumble circuit. And then I have my analog echo delay in this, even though it says chromatic tuner, this is a Frankenstein DD5 pedal, I believe. I believe it's a DD5. It's been so used throughout the years, it's destroyed and stepped on it so many times that it actually broke through the housing. So I had to change the housing, but this is a DD5 delay pedal. Then it goes into my Boss RC600, and I have it wired up to an expression pedal via MIDI that I can toggle two modes like this, so I can send two different MIDI expressions. I also wired all of these. I do have a video of that. I created these jacks, and just so I could have 90-degree angles down into this Ghostfire pedal board that has this special hole here, which I'll show you in a minute. And I've pre-wired everything under the board into to output into a patch bay. I have a rock board patch bay with an XLR input. And I do a lot with this here, but basically most of these wires flow from under the patch bay, and I just patch them in like this. Let me show you how quick this is, and I'll show you how fast I am set up for a gig. There is my input-output selection. This is an additional wire, which I use for beatboxing. Basically, I have an isolated line from my microphone to the looping pedal that I can drop and pitch just for my beatboxing. Because I find I need to isolate dropped beatboxing effects with other things like reverb and delay. I don't want to have reverb or delay added to a regular beatbox mic. I need the signal split in two with one dropped an octave or whatever it is that sounds good, and EQ'd as for like a substantial low end, and then the second split will hit the higher end stuff. So compression, flatten it out and give it some pop and punch, and I'll add EQ and reverb to that. So that's what this wire is here, and that's just how I've just decided to route it into this pedal board. These are the two XLRs for my microphones, and I'm about to show you this now. So the hole is for the microphone stand, so I can condense this nice and quick. And I've pre-soldered these microphone wires so that they are basically cut to length. When I set this pedal board down, by the time I set it down, take my foam pads off and start wiring everything, I can have this entire thing wired in 1 minute. But that took a lot of prep work on my workbench. Yeah, I can't recommend doing something like this enough, because if you're busy and you're gigging, 5-6 times a week, the amount of time you will save setting up and packing up over the course of a year, I've done the math once or twice, and it's just huge. Every minute you can shave off of your setup and your teardown, you are going to be thanking yourself by the end of the year. I can guarantee it. All right, and once all of this is set up initially here, I have all my inputs to the mixer, then it's time to decide what I want for outputs, whether it's going to be one main speaker, 2 speakers for stereo, or to just spread the sound mono in 2 different directions, to add a sub, or add a monitor, whether it's a loudspeaker monitor or a headphone mix, an in-ear monitor mix. That's where I start to grab things from my cord bag and wire up all my power and XLRs, anything I need to run the PA. Here's a controversial bit. I like to wrap my cables with a loose knot at the top. I've made all my own cables. I've had the same cables for almost 20 years now. It's a myth that this will ruin your cable. The reason I like this, it's quicker than the Velcro ties. And honestly, I like the little bit of a knot, because then if I stack them in a knot to knot like this, stack, they separate very cleanly and easily, instead of wires getting tangled and mixed up like this. When there's a knot, I find they don't get tangled as easy. So that's why I do that. All right, well, that is my looping setup. Obviously, I haven't demoed any of it yet, but keep in mind in the next video, we're going to be showing how the Jackery can power all of this stuff. I don't even know yet. I'm just really curious to see how long of a street performance I can run this much stuff with.